What's up, Powerlifting Nation? I am a positive person. I don't like negativity. I don't like to be controversial. And my aim is to keep this channel as positive as possible. However, today we are going to have my first controversial video. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video about Jesus Olivares, the strongest powerlifter in the world. And in the video, I called him Natty. And people in the comments were not happy with this. One comment, someone said that, keep in mind, tested doesn't mean natty. But thinking he is natty is delusional. He is enhanced like any other. Still the strongest though. And there were other comments saying that he is obviously not natty. And to be honest, I can't fault them. I mean, from Jesus's crazy performances, it is easy to doubt his natty status. Let me tell you a few things that he has accomplished. So he totaled 1,152.5 kilograms. This is the biggest powerlifting raw total we have ever seen. So this includes both tested and untested powerlifters. So powerlifters that are on stuff. He is able to beat them, which is crazy. He is also ranked number 4 of all time, including both raw and wrapped lifters, which basically means that apart from 3 other powerlifters, he is able to beat all other enhanced lifters who are allowed to wear knee wraps, which really help you on the squat. And they are also allowed to use a deadlift bar. He has beaten all but 3 of these enhanced lifters, while being in a natty division of powerlifting, the IPF. And so definitely I do understand why people doubt Jesus's natty status. However, I'm here to say that I think that Jesus could be natty. I actually believe that it is more likely that he is natty than he is not natty. However, I don't think it's silly to believe that he is not natty. But let me tell you my reasons why I believe that he is natty. So, first of all, let's talk about financial incentives. As human beings, we know to kind of doubt the natty status of our top athletes. For example, cyclists, runners, NFL players. We learn to doubt these athletes. Why? Because so many of these athletes have been caught taking stuff. And so I think that when people look at powerlifters, they assume that it is the same case. All of the top athletes are on stuff. However, I think that people are forgetting one key point. And this point is that powerlifting isn't a mainstream sport like these other sports. Let me explain why this makes a difference. In Kenya, there has been a scandal recently about long-distance runners. Basically, a lot of the top long-distance runners have been caught taking PEDs and have been banned, which is unfortunate, of course. However, the reason why a lot of people cheat in these mainstream sports is because of the massive financial incentive to do well in these sports. One person was saying that basically if these Kenyan runners win a couple of races in a year, that is enough prize money to basically give themselves enough money to live on for the rest of their lives. And in sports like the NFL and cycling, where the incentive is even bigger if you win, you can literally guarantee you and your family generational wealth if you are able to get to the top. And some people would even argue that it is selfish and silly to not cheat as one of these mainstream athletes if the alternative is living in poverty and allowing your family to live in poverty. So that's why people cheat in mainstream sports. However, powerlifting is different because there isn't that financial incentive to win. Prize money, the most prize money you're realistically winning per year is £20,000 in powerlifting. That's the maximum in natty powerlifting. Unless you're Agatha Sitko, who made about, I think she makes about 45,000 a year from prize money. But realistically, like the very top powerlifting athletes are maybe, if they're doing loads and loads of competitions, maybe they can make £20,000 a year, which just isn't enough incentive to cheat, especially when you have to include the risk of getting caught and humiliated and the risk of buying these PEDs. And some people may argue that, yeah, you may not be able to make 20,000 from prize money, but you can make a whole powerlifting coaching business. And by performing really well, that will boost your business and that will allow you to make money. But I think that this is a silly point, just because if your livelihood is powerlifting coaching, taking stuff and risking getting caught is 100% not worth the few clients you might gain from doing a little bit better in competitions. So yeah, I don't think there's a financial incentive to be not natty in IPF powerlifting. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is the drug testing in powerlifting. Powerlifting in the IPF is unique because you have both in-meet and out-of-meet testing. What does this mean? Well, in-meet testing is self-explanatory. You do well at a meet and you might get tested. But out-of-meet testing basically means that you have to tell the IPF where you are going to be 24/7, and at any time throughout the year, if you are in the testing pool, you could get tested. And this is really, really significant because this means that you can't decide to hop on during an off season and then during the on season you go off stuff. No, because you can be tested at any time, which means that it would be very difficult to go on stuff and not get caught. And yet you could argue that people go on stuff which isn't going to be detected by drug tests, but I think this is a little bit silly once again, just because once again there isn't a financial incentive to do this. I'm assuming that to take the drugs which are not going to be detected by drug tests are going to be more expensive. And so once again, you're going to spend thousands of pounds a year to cheat drug tests just to probably make no money back. There just isn't a financial incentive for this, especially when you include the risk factor. One interesting thing actually is the video that Greg Doucette made about Russell Orhe 4 years ago. Basically, if you don't know, Greg Doucette, a massive fitness influencer, he basically became famous from doing natty or not videos. And he basically called 90% of the fitness industry not natty. And he actually called Russell Orhe not natty. However, I think the only time that Greg Doucette has apologized and said he was wrong was with Russell Orhe. This is because Russell Orhe showed Greg Doucette that he had been in the testing pool for the last 5 years and he had been tested out of meet 16 times in those 5 years. And from that evidence, Greg Doucette decided that Russell was in fact natural. So I think that that's a little bit significant. And then the final reason why I believe that Jesus is most likely natty is because the talent pool in powerlifting is very small. Relatively speaking, there aren't many people that compete in powerlifting. There are 8 billion people in the world, and I think about 1 million people have competed in powerlifting in the last 30 years. And so that basically means that powerlifting really doesn't have a massive net to catch genetic freaks. And so it means that we don't have many genetic freaks in powerlifting. And so it means that when we do get genetic freaks in powerlifting, they just are way above everyone else. And everyone assumes that these people aren't natty. For example, Rondell Hunt, Austin Perkins, Russell Orhe, and Jesus. These people are genetic freaks and look way above everyone else, but it's just because powerlifting hasn't been able to catch enough genetic freaks to kind of level everything out and make some weight classes more competitive. But I would say that because powerlifting is slowly growing, we are actually seeing more and more genetic freaks. For example, Elliot Sykes, who I did a podcast with, who is already at least in the top 5 powerlifters in the 74 kg class right now at such a young age. We also have Jack Reynolds, who is bench pressing 220 kg at 17 years old, weighing about 90 kilograms. So yeah, the reason I say this is because I think that we haven't even scratched the surface of what people are capable of in powerlifting. And I think that as the talent pool grows, we are going to see some insane performances. And I believe that in 10 years, no one will be doubting whether Jesus Olivares is natural. Why? Because as the talent pool grows, I bet we are going to see loads and loads of people that are doing what Jesus is doing. Also, the reason why Jesus is able to keep up and beat so many enhanced lifters is because the talent pool in the untested side of powerlifting is even more small, which means we have even fewer genetic freaks. And so that means that we don't see so many crazy performances in the enhanced side. And when we do see genetic freaks in the enhanced side, because the talent pool is so small, they are just so dominant. For example, John Hack is just way, way, way above the rest of the people in the enhanced side, because he is one of the few genetic freaks on the enhanced side. So I hope you guys understand my point. Sometimes I struggle to make things very clear, but I hope you followed me. Tell me what you think down below. I encourage friendly debate, as long as you are backing up your point. If you like the video, subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'll see you guys in the next one.